Hi, good morning. Let's talk about weight of handlebar systems. And I prepared about four bars I'm looking at today, and about 5 different stem solutions. Um, okay, so let's define a starting point. I want to start with this. This is easily my most loved bar. And one of the reasons is I made this myself. And what you see here is basically, if I put my hands to limit the original length of it, this is how long it used to be. I then put a plug in here about this length. As you can see, there's no drillings where the plug sits, even though there's no clever reason for it other than me just being extra careful of not damaging the area that is already questionable, because that's basically where you plugged it and lengthened it. So I lengthened it about this much. And that's a good 20 centimeters per bar. Yeah, probably more like 25 centimeters I lengthened this bar. So this is like your classic steel bar that you can still find on children's bike today, on any cheap stuff made in China where weight supposedly doesn't matter. I think in brand new children's bike by Decathlon will come with a bar like that. Or a couple of years ago, still their bottom barrel mountain bikes would have come with something like that. So this is what I had at the time. As I said, I put a plug in it, a tube of the inside diameter of this bar, and I cut up another bar and extended it, welded it together. I drilled holes, I plugged through it, welded through it, and hey ho, here gives you the extended bar. Now, one thing that I love about this bar is the amount of turn back this has. So if you look at it from a straight top view, how much further this comes towards you, the rider. So let me compare it to this. Compare this to a modern shape. This is your very most typical riser bar. If you put riser bar on eBay and you end up in China and see what they have to offer, this will be this bar by this manufacturer. It comes in many different disguises, same bar more or less. There might be a couple of different manufacturers that do this, but let's compare the top view. Straight from the top, and you see how much, very, very scientific what I'm presenting here. But so if you look at it from the top, you see how much more straight this modern bar is. Now there's good reasons for that, but if you are applying this to a classic build, like I often do, when you take an old 60s Italian lugged steel road frame and you want to put a riser bar on it and a wider bar, then something with a little bit more, I don't know what the proper word is, come back towards you, is more comfortable to ride. And that's exactly the reason why I took this out of my classic build, and I'm applying this to my mountain bike for the summer. So story here is how to lose weight on your bike, and let's get into it. Got a little scale here, let's fire it up. Let me focus on the scale. Let me adjust this a little bit, so bring you a little bit closer too. Sorry for the camera wobble while we do so that should be all right. Fine adjustment to make this nice and straight for you. Okay, 0 grams on the scale. So I put this at the edge of the table so that this ends of the bar can hang down. And let's weigh the steel bar. This is absolutely heavy. Heavy in any stretch of the imagination, and extending it and putting the plugs in it makes it more heavy than all the drilled holes here can enlighten it again. So this is a heavy bar given. So that's the bar, old bar. And it's 553 grams. Okay? Now, this is a regular quill stem, so I would have to add a quill stem to the system weight. So here is a run-of-the-mill quill stem. This one is already shortened, so this would have been much longer. It's a Humpert. It's very wide. So if wide is a good thing for you, then that's a good thing. What I don't think is a good thing is that it actually has a hole to set for vintage brakes. What do you call them? It's not V brakes. It's, sorry for the stuck words. Anyway, if you need a cable to here for your brakes, then this would be good. If you don't, then that's a questionable thing. Anyway, so let's just say this is our system weight, and we have a total system weight of 908 grams. Yes? So that's our baseline. Heavy steel bar, very comfortable but heavy, and a stem that you find on any old bike all the way up till 1980, 1990, something like that. So this is our baseline. Now let's jump straight to the final solution for maximum weight savings, which is this here. So we have a Chinese Tossic flip-flop painted carbon bar that weighs about 225 grams if I remember correctly. I'm using a modern stem with a relatively high rise by Uno. It's a 70 millimeter long stem with a 35 millimeter rise. I like this stem because it's short and it gives you maximum rise, and it's about a it's a 35 degree rise. How much rise does it give? Let's have a look. Gives about 30 millimeter rise if you measure from the theoretical center of the stem and the theoretical center of the bar. Maybe even less, maybe 25. Okay. Okay, and the total system weight is 497. So if we divide this up here, then we have gained 411 grams. But that's the maximum I can show you here on my table today. Okay, so you lose 411 grams. This will cost you, if you buy everything new, and let's talk a little bit about shopping. I find it kind of peculiar that if you want to buy something like this, which is distinctively made in China and distributed by some Chinese system into Europe, it's way easier. There's way more choice if you want to buy things like that if you go shopping on ebay.co.uk. That's the regular British eBay, ebay.co.uk. You can make yourself a new account in about 3 minutes. You do not need to register a bank account as long as you have a PayPal account or similar. You can purchase things that way. So register yourself, make a new account. It'll these days gives you an automatic name, and you'll be ready to purchase. You can have this shipped. Most often it's a bit of an issue where to ship to, but if you have a friend in the UK, That would be the easiest. Okay, so that's how you buy one of these bars. And I like to say that I didn't spend more than 25 or 30 pounds on the bars. So that's the lightest bar you can buy for the least amount of money. So let's just rough this up. Okay, so let's say it was 30 pounds. I bought this stem. Also, this will cost about 10 pounds. And then you need one of these quill stem adapters. As you can see, it has the quill stem at the bottom, and then the modern stem will attach to this. So also this will cost you about 10 pounds. There's different qualities. This one is probably one of the most expensive ones. It's a really nice one. Unfortunately, there's no indication of where this was manufactured, but I picked this up in the United States. Used. So let's just say another 10 pounds if you go for a cheap one. Here's an example of a cheap one that I just bought. It's like 8 pounds, something like that, plus shipping. And let's see how much is this in itself weight. This is relatively heavy. The other one is lighter. This weighs 160 grams. The other issue that I'd like to show you right away is the length of stem that you bolt on. So here I go with any regular size stem, and I don't need a spacer. I can run this without any extra spacer here in this area. If I would use this one, I need quite a wide spacer to fill up this gap. That is about 20 millimeters. Similar to what I'm running on my Santiago bicycle. So that would be a disadvantage. So that's your stem adapter. And then you go with any modern stem. So let me check a third option that I put together, tried and tested, and decided not to go forward with because it just didn't quite give me the weight savings that I was looking for. So again, I'm trying to give you system weight. So here's bar plus stem adapter. Sorry, this is sliding off. How can I do that? Okay, 495 makes a total system here of 655. So that's the super cheap stem adapter. It's a quite nice Bontrager stem that's quite light and also drilled, and this is a much cheaper riser bar. These aluminium riser bars, you can pick up for as little as 15 pounds on a good day for you, or a bad day for the Chinese sellers. Again, that is ebay.co.uk. You can find this in Germany also, for example. It'll be quite more expensive there. Quite a bit more expensive. So, that was the third option. Obviously middle ground for the weight. It's almost 250 grams heavier, that system. Of which I'm sure, and I'm not going to take this apart right now, of which I'm sure at least 50 of these grams are due to this little stem adapter. Which, they're cheap, yes, but it's just really not worth saving 10 pounds for adding a 50 grams weight penalty in my books. If you have no money at all, well then that's what you have to do, but then you have other options as far as I'm concerned. So here's the bar itself. It's about 365 grams for the bar, completely unmolested. This is a 780 millimeter wide riser bar, gives you about 25 millimeter rise. Bolts onto any modern stem. It's a 31.8 millimeter diameter, and it looks, well, Well, I don't necessarily like the way they look, but that's just me maybe. Okay, lastly, obviously I have used this classic stem as for a basic weight comparison, and let me give you again as a reminder of the weight. So that was 355 grams. And here I have one, pardon me for the shake, severely drilled. Yes, it's correct. Yes, it's stable. Yes, this is totally proven. This I have ridden this stem for years that way. So structural integrity is obviously sufficient for me, and most of the time I would ride this with a body weight of something like 75 to 80 kilograms. So this is proven. And not for downhill and jumping and whatnot, but on a rigid bike where you are the suspension and you drive accordingly careful, this is sufficient. So let's see how much it weighs. 287, that's very good. $168 grams of a difference. Now this is not to me drilling only. There's a couple of differences. Start with the biggest weight savings is cutting the length. This gives you the most. Okay? In order to be able to do that, you need to have a shorter bolt, or a bolt that has enough thread that you can then cut. So the thread needs to be long enough, about till this long. Okay? That's the biggest change, and that's a relatively easy job to do. So you just mark it nicely, you cut it. That's the same piece. You can also look into your spares. Sometimes these are out of aluminium, like this one here is an aluminium one. They might have a different thread, so be careful. They're not always interchangeable, but that makes a big difference too. If this little triangular nut thingy here is made from aluminium. Remember, here it's not. So that's part of the problem. This thing in steel, very heavy. I have tried to give this a revolver drilling. I drilled 6 holes in it, and that's one of the few things in my history of drilling that actually broke. So it just burst apart. So I did another one with smaller holes and only 5. So that's still alive today. You can do that. But that's hard because it's steel and you need to be very careful. So go back to this. Difference in weight. Cut it, because this is already giving quite a rise here. This is a good rise. Sorry, now you can see. This gives a very good rise. Gives you if we measure from about here, need to make sure you can see that. This gives about 50 millimeter rise. That's brilliant. So therefore you don't need much rise in your bar if you have one of those. So therefore the original bar that I showed you is more than plenty for rise. I think that's about 25 millimeter. Shall we check? Yeah, 25 millimeter rise on this bar. So let's go back. Subject of, in this case, losing weight on a vintage classic quill stem. So the second thing to consider is the width of it. This one, the heavy one here, is about 5 millimeters wider. Now whether this one here was identical and I just made it narrower, I don't remember, but what I did in any case is that I made it be more beautiful, and to me it was one of the key things I wanted. When you look at this line here, that when it goes towards you, it continues to taper inwards. So that means I've twisted the surface here. So twisted means it starts off like that and it turns in. Okay, so I gave the surface here a twist, because I'm of the logic that if this is where the bolt sits, then why would I carry a whole lot of weight down here on the cheeks? Don't think that is of value. So that's why I took some material out here, made the chin a bit more narrow. Now, okay, basically think about it. This is what we buy today, okay? So clearly there's no material, sorry for the shake, there's no material in the center. So this is where these holes come from. This dead weight, to an extent. Okay, so I drilled this along the center. I did some holes first and then some more, so that's why it's not very logic. It's a bit erratic, but if I don't point it out to you, you won't see that too much. You just see a lot of stuff and it looks kind of interesting. Okay, and then it's polished. But it's short, it's stubby, it's heavy stuff in the first place. I even looked at little bolts that are a bit lighter. This one is actually aluminium, that's why the surface here is a bit frazzled from all the torque, but I can hammer this back down and make it flat again and polish it again if I want to. Okay, and then lastly there's a hole down here. This is just for quilling, and the quilling happens there, not here. So it's obviously counterproductive for the actual quilling activity, but it still works. Okay, so that concludes my little tutorial. If you want to spend about £50, that gives you 411 grams. Here we are. Original system in steel, bar and vintage stem. You obviously can easily optimize your... Okay, let me start again. It's logic for me saying it, but I also wanted logic for you following me. And that's always a little bit harder. So, let's go back. Original system. Steel bar, okay? The steel bar itself is 553 grams. And then I added this heavy stem. So if I use the optimized solution, but stay with only this very change, then I'm saving 168 grams. Gives me a total of 553, 287, 0941338, 840. Okay, so the vintage system could be here 840 or 900. You don't see what I'm pointing at. Right. Let me go back on the scale. Bar, vintage, and we should switch it on, that would help. Bar, unmodified stem, 907, or bar and heavily modified stem. I mean, don't kid yourself, we're talking 2 or 3 days of work here. 840. Okay, so that's the first 168 grams. Just by drilling, no new parts, no cost involved, other than sharp drill bits, a little bit of autosol, and a lot of sandpaper and some old underpants for polishing. So, yep. You go all the way out. There's no rocket science and no work involved. This just comes and is a bolt-on solution. So 50 pounds, 411 grams, or a lot of work, 168 grams. That's up to you. Okay, so hope you, if you're still here, then you must be a weight nerd like me. So enjoy, and have a good day.